Well, if you thought that Pamela Jo Bondi, Donald Trump's former criminal defense and impeachment lawyer, and now presiding over the most corrupt Department of Justice, was going to grow a brain or ethics overnight before she testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee and Oversight Committee today, guess again, because Pamela Jo Bondi showed herself to be the partisan hack that is the person who's destroyed the independence of the Department of Justice. And she was on full display today. And I also want to make a warning to Pam Bondi. At present, you still have a bar license, I believe, in Florida. You may not have that bar license after this administration is over, based on how you are acting, how you are performative, how you are a enabler of Donald Trump's worst abuse of power. And wait till I show you here on Tuesday some clips. They're going to put your hair on fire, but nothing should surprise you. It's consistent with how she has run the Department of Justice. Now you know why 282, make that likely 283 members of the Department of Justice who have left since January, all at key positions, either been fired or left voluntarily, why they have sent an urgent message decrying the attack on the Justice Department from within, and led by Pamela Jo Bondi and Donald Trump. Let's get to it. You're on Legal AF. Hit the free subscribe button. And now let's rub my hands together and get into Pamela Jo Bondi's testimony. If you thought Kash Patel, as the FBI director, did horribly and didn't cover himself in any glory and is likely a candidate for impeachment should the Democrats take back the House and the Senate, and Pam Bondi too, wait till you get a look at Pam Bondi. First, you've got Dick Durbin, the leading Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, who kicked it all off, reminding Pam Bondi, in case she forgot, that she is the worst Attorney General of all time. And in just 9 or 10 short months, she's led to its complete destruction in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of federal judges, and in the eyes of history. Let's go with Dick Durbin.
These hearings have never been more important as President Trump turns the full force of the federal government on Chicago and other American cities. The assault on the city I am proud to represent is just one example of how President Trump and Attorney General Bondi shut down justice at the Department of Justice even before the president's party, controlling the White House, Senate, and House of Representatives, shut down the government. The Attorney General has systematically weaponized our nation's leading law enforcement agency to protect President Trump and his allies and attack his opponents and, sadly, the American people.
Now, that's not the only back and forth that happened, because you could see Pam Bondi had been prepped to within an inch of her life by Stephen Miller, I am sure, by other right-wing podcast enablers and influencers to come out swinging. Doesn't matter what you say, doesn't matter what you do, don't answer any questions, just take pot shots here. We'll give you talking points and a palm card of which pot shots to take at which person and attack back. Is this what, I'm asking America, not just rhetorically, is this what you want your head of the Department of Justice? Is this how you want them to act, regardless of which political stripe you are? Or is this embarrassing, cringeworthy, change the channel, train wreck, you got to watch, but you can't look at and you can't look away? So then when Dick Durbin asked her about Epstein, she then continues, because that's her talking point. I'm going to attack. I'm going to look tough. All you look like is the partisan hack that you are. And the eyes of the bar regulators and the future people who are going to be in the House and the Senate, who are going to judge your conduct, they're all watching, as is the court of history. Let's watch Bondi and Dick Durbin about the Epstein files. Let's go with that.
Quarrel with you is to read somebody that you mentioned I never heard of.
Reid Hoffman.
So who gave the order to flag records related to President Trump?
To flag records for President Trump?
To flag any records which included his name.
I'm not going to discuss anything about that with you, Senator.
Eventually you're going to have to answer for your conduct in this. You won't do it today, but eventually you will. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
I know that Pam Bondi is all proud of herself for being the attorney general for a short period of time in Florida, and she was the impeachment lawyer for Donald Trump, did terribly. But now she's going up against U.S. senators. And act with decorum. You're in their house, not your own. You're not sitting around in some MAGA a propaganda platform like News One or Newsmax or Fox News, whatever you want to call it. And here's her going back and forth with Richard Blumenthal.
That took place.
Which merger? You've listed many.
Involving American Express GBT. I understand that Brian Ballard, longtime backer and head of the law firm where you worked, was instrumental in lobbying the Justice Department to drop that lawsuit. It was dismissed, so it's not subject to a court review. What conversations did you have with Mr. Ballard?
Senator Blumenthal, I cannot believe that you would accuse me of impropriety when you lied about your military service.
I am
you
not
lied.
asking
You admitted you
I am
lied
not
to be
accusing you
elected
of
a U.S. senator.
impropriety.
You
I'm asking
lied.
you
How
about
dare you? I'm a career prosecutor.
with Mr.
Don't you
Ballard,
ever challenge my integrity.
had
I have
apparently-
abided by every ethics standard. Do not question my ability to be fair and impartial as Attorney General and anything
You'll
with
answer that
my
question to
former
another of my
firm,
colleagues.
Ballard Partners.
Thank you.
And then similarly, because she has no remorse and she has no conscience, she has no ethics, she does battle with people like Amy Klobuchar. Let's play the Klobuchar clip.
We saw this with the president directing an investigation prosecution of Chris Krebs, the former head of cybersecurity, Lisa Cook, who is a current governor of the Federal Reserve, Director Comey. And the president, and I know you have said that you will not discuss discussions you've had with the president about Comey. Is that correct? That you won't testify here about that? Because I was going to ask you if you received advice, instruction, or request from anyone at the White House to direct the department to engage in any investigations, prosecutorial actions, including decisions not to investigate or prosecute anyone.
I'm not going to discuss any conversations.
But then how about the Truth Social post on September 20th, 2025, in which the president said, "We can't delay any longer, Pam," using your name, "not bringing criminal charges are killing our reputation," his words, "and credibility." And then goes on to tell you to prosecute a member of this committee, to prosecute the Attorney General of New York, and to prosecute James Comey. Do you consider that a directive to the Justice Department?
Senator Klobuchar, President Trump is the most transparent president in American history. And I don't think he said anything that he hasn't said for years.
Okay, it has been reported that you initially pushed back against requests by senior Trump administration officials to push out or fire the acting U.S. attorney in Virginia, Eric Siebert, who's a conservative Republican, who made the decision that the evidence was not there to prosecute Comey. What made you change your opinion?
I am not going to discuss personnel decisions.
Okay. Is it true that the career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia found that there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against former Director Comey?
I am not going to discuss pending cases because Comey was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia by, I may point out, one of the most liberal grand juries in the country.
Okay, let's go on to other firings or terminations.
And then, of course, things come up like, as we just saw, what's going on in the Eastern District of Virginia? Why is that once proud prosecutor's office on fire that you are the arsonist for? Why has every major leader in the office been fired, some of which taped notes to their door on the way out, decrying the complete destruction of the Department of Justice and its role in American society? Why? Why are there prosecutors refusing, in part of the resistance, and obviously leaking to the press that they're not going to recommend prosecution of Donald Trump's enemy list, his Democratic enemy list? Why is that happening? Why is Lindsey Halligan the instant prosecutor? Why has she been given the job when she has absolutely no experience? She's been a prosecutor for a week, and she was able to bring the Comey indictment. Let's talk about Comey. And of course, she refuses to do any of that, as we saw on the clip. Then it gets to Tom Homan, the border czar, where there is a video of him taking cash from FBI undercovers before he became the border czar, but knowing he was going to be the border czar in return for federal contracting. I don't know, like detention centers? He takes the cash, which is our taxpayer dollars, and never returned it. And here's what she had to say to Senator Hirono about the bribery scandal.
2 weeks ago, DOJ officials reportedly shut down the bribery investigation into Mr. Homan. Ms. Bondi, did you approve closing the Homan investigation, bribery investigation? Just get rid of that.
Senator Hirono, as I stated earlier, the Department of Justice and the FBI conducted a thorough review, and they found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing. You were also on video outside the White House protesting with a group called CASA, where Antifa members were. Does that mean you're a member of Antifa?
You know, I simply asked the question as to whether or not you approve the shutting down of the investigation, Mr. Homan. I have to assume that you did because the FBI reports to you. But the American people would look at the situation where this person is taking a $50,000 in cash, no less, and you testified today that a thorough investigation was done. Now, I have to assume, I conclude, that since no wrongdoing was determined, that in answer to Senator Whitehouse's question, he kept the money. He kept the money, and I hope that he put that on his tax returns as income.
I mean, how do you know when Pam Bondi is lying? Her lips move when she talks. She doesn't want to level with the American people. She doesn't want to be honest. She wants to do this ham-fisted, sophomoric role reversal thing where she's too smart by half and she's getting knocked out by the Democrats. These are the things that people have to remember at the midterms. You want this clown car, this dumpster fire shoved into a clown car running your government, having their hand on the levers of power and the American flag? That's what you want? That was rhetorical. So Justice Connection, who's coming on with me tomorrow, and its executive director, is a group that represents 282 former career employees who worked for the Department of Justice, all who left since the Trump administration began. And they, of course, have issued a letter to America to stop the destruction of the Department of Justice. I'm posting the letter in Legal AF Substack so that you can read it. Our fidelity to the Constitution and our dedication to our country, the letter reads, did not end when our jobs did. Now that we left the department, we believe it's our duty to sound the alarm that the Justice Department cannot uphold the rule of law when it's trying to carry out the president's retribution campaign, violate court orders, evade due process rights, and violate their ethical responsibilities. They can't keep our country safe when they're firing all of the best and the brightest in all of the departments that deal with terrorism and narcotics and violence. It can't protect our civil rights when 75% of the Civil Rights Division has been fired. She got rid of almost all of Pam Bondi got rid of almost all of the public corruption department within the Department of Justice. And they call on their leaders to uphold their oath, an oath that obviously Pam Bondi has forgotten, to sound the alarm, for Congress to exercise the oversight rigorously and vigorously as we are seeing them do today. And we call on all Americans whose safety, prosperity, and rights depend on a strong Department of Justice to speak out against its destruction. That is Exhibit A of the destruction of the Department of Justice. There's lots more, folks. I could do another 10 hot takes just about the clips. Tonight, Tuesday night, 8 p.m., join me on The Intersection, my podcast on the Midas Touch Network, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we will show more clips. I will cover this in more detail once this mercifully ends. This display of corruption. The revolution may not be televised, but it's certainly on YouTube. I'm glad you're here. Hit the free subscribe button. Come over to Legal AF Substack where you can get your own copy of the Justice Connection plea to the American people and to the Department of Justice leadership, including Pam Bondi, and become a paid member. That's what keeps the lights on, folks. The other night when I got AG Bonta from California on in the middle of the night to talk about a new ruling that came out in emergency fashion by the judge in Oregon, somebody picked up the phone on my editing team because we're paying our bills. We need help. Now's the time. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popak. I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popak Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popak Firm today at 1-877-POPAK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopakfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popak Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.